In March 2024, federal agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. The headlines focused on what was seized: drugs, illegal firearms, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil. But behind the scenes, investigators uncovered something far more chilling. Beneath the surface, literally, were hidden tunnels, soundproof chambers, and underground rooms not listed on any blueprint. Secret corridors carved beneath the mansion of one of music's most powerful men. Why were they there? Who used them? And what dark purpose did they serve? This isn't just about illegal parties anymore. It's about architecture built to hide people, control access, and possibly bury secrets. What was buried underneath Diddy's empire? And who knew about it? You're about to find out. It started with flashing lights, battering rams, and black SUVs lining the manicured streets of Star Island and Beverly Hills. On March 25, 2024, federal agents from multiple task forces executed coordinated raids on Sean Diddy Combs' Miami and Los Angeles estates. The world watched from afar, paparazzi zooming in, news anchors speculating, influencers posting, but most of the public only saw the surface. What they didn't see, what didn't make the first wave of headlines, was what investigators found beneath the mansions. Literally. The official press releases mentioned narcotics, firearms with defaced serial numbers, large amounts of ketamine and ecstasy, and the strange, inexplicable stockpile of over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, neatly arranged in cabinets like medical supplies. But for those who were actually inside those homes, especially the Miami compound, something else became apparent. The blueprint didn't match the house. Federal agents noticed architectural inconsistencies almost immediately. Rooms that were larger on the inside than the floor plan suggested, hallways that ended too abruptly, doors behind walls, floor tiles that seemed off. An investigator later described one of the rooms as feeling like an optical illusion. Another reportedly told a supervisor, "We're missing something big." And they were. In the basement level of the Miami mansion, behind what appeared to be a wine cellar wall, agents discovered a narrow, reinforced passageway, roughly 6 feet high, 4 feet wide, soundproofed, and painted matte black. It was a tunnel no one had declared in permits. A tunnel not listed in any building plan. A tunnel leading deeper into the foundation of the house. And it wasn't the only one. In a hidden corridor beneath the garage, a second passageway was uncovered, this one leading to a locked chamber with biometric security. It required a thumbprint, Diddy's, according to metadata pulled from the connected control panel. The room it protected, still under investigation, but early reports describe it as part vault, part server farm, part panic room. Sources claim multiple agents who participated in the raid were visibly shaken by what they found. Not because of gore, not because of violence, but because of the precision, the intentionality, the clear fact that someone, likely Diddy himself, had invested time, money, and expertise into hiding parts of his home from the outside world. And it begs the question, why? Was it paranoia? Celebrity security? Or was something, or someone, being hidden? Whispers began to circulate. Was this a freakish one-off architectural choice? Or was this part of a broader system, a shadow blueprint behind the music mogul's empire? According to internal law enforcement memos later leaked to the press, investigators found custom air ducts running along the tunnels, specialized locks, and even fiber optic wiring that seemed to bypass the home's main internet lines. There were also emergency exit hatches, small, concealed doors built into the landscape that could let someone slip out of the property entirely unnoticed. Now think about that. A home with a built-in escape route, a tunnel system with surveillance blind spots, rooms that the law, the public, and even some staff were never supposed to see. This wasn't just paranoia. This was infrastructure designed for secrecy. And it got darker. One agent told an insider, "I've done cartel raids. I've seen trafficking bunkers. This felt worse because it was smarter, cleaner, purpose-built." It didn't take long for federal officials to start reviewing footage from Diddy's properties. As the surveillance drives were decrypted, new questions emerged. Why did certain guests at Diddy's parties never appear on front door footage? How did so many high-profile attendees come and go without a trace? Because they didn't walk through the front door. They came in through the tunnels. And those tunnels? They led to places no one was supposed to find. When agents pushed deeper into the tunnel systems beneath Diddy's Miami property, what they found wasn't just disturbing. It was planned, engineered. Someone had invested millions to make sure this part of the house was invisible. And once they mapped out the subterranean floor plan, a clearer picture began to emerge. This wasn't just a tunnel. It was a network. Several underground chambers sat like silent islands beneath the estate, unreachable unless you knew exactly where to look. These rooms weren't for storage. They weren't bomb shelters. And they weren't mentioned in any zoning filings or construction permits, despite being fully wired, ventilated, and soundproofed. One of the first spaces uncovered was described by federal agents as a private vault room. Inside were biometric locks, temperature controls, and a safe embedded into the concrete wall. But what shook investigators the most was what was on the walls. Frames without pictures, hooks without anything hanging, and in the center, a leather recliner positioned directly in front of a mounted television monitor and hardwired keyboard. A surveillance control point, buried underground, and likely operated only by Diddy or someone in his most trusted inner circle. But it didn't stop there. Adjacent to that vault was a smaller room the agents began referring to as the Green Room, a name taken directly from the file folder label attached to its security panel. Unlike the control room, this space was stripped bare. Pale green walls, soft, indirect lighting, and several floor cushions arranged in a circular pattern. No windows, no furniture, no ventilation beyond a single air duct connected to an external filtration system. According to one source close to the investigation, the walls of this room were constructed using lead-lined concrete, designed to block radio frequencies and cellular signals, essentially creating a dead zone. No Wi-Fi, no tracking, no calls in or out. One federal agent called it an isolation chamber. Another compared it to interrogation cells used in off-the-books intelligence sites overseas. So what was this for? Meditation? Solitary detox? Or something darker? Here's where things start to get unsettling. According to former staff who were later subpoenaed by prosecutors, the Green Room was strictly off-limits to employees. Several described being warned not to go near it, with one ex-housekeeper claiming she was fired after opening a door that led too close to the space. Another staffer, a former house engineer, stated that the room was used only when special guests were visiting. He described seeing high-profile figures led through the tunnels into the Green Room, then reappearing hours later visibly altered. Nervous, disoriented, and sometimes unable to stand without help. And still, no one asked questions. Why? Because those who didn't stay employed. It wasn't just fear, it was control. And control was built into the architecture. As investigators dug deeper, they found more signs that this wasn't a fluke. There were custom ventilation systems, voice-activated lighting, and even pressure sensors designed to alert when someone stepped on specific floor tiles. The entire underground system was built with military-grade stealth, and yet it was hiding in plain sight, beneath one of the most visible celebrities in America. But that's the point, isn't it? What better place to hide the darkest parts of your empire than right under the noses of people who think they already know everything? Diddy's homes weren't just luxurious. They were weaponized. Not with bombs, with silence. And when agents looked at the data logs from these rooms, they saw names, dates, initials, but no video, no audio. As if someone had wiped it all clean, just before they arrived. Diddy's homes were always a mystery, even before the raids, even before the tunnels. The man built his brand on being untouchable. Lavish white parties, VIP-only events, and an inner circle that acted more like a fortress than a friend group. But behind the smiles and champagne glasses, there was another story being whispered through Hollywood. One that nobody wanted to say on record. Some guests didn't enter through the front door. Some never even saw the main gate. Multiple former staff have now come forward, under subpoena or anonymity, to reveal what really happened behind the scenes of Diddy's legendary parties. And it all starts with the tunnels. According to two former security contractors, hired separately for events in Miami and Los Angeles, select guests were given custom instructions before arrival. They were told to park blocks away, leave phones in locked pouches, and follow private drivers to a side entrance. That side entrance always led underground, not to a foyer, not to the main house, to the tunnels. One security guard described a section of the Miami property as the cold floor. He said it wasn't on any blueprint he'd ever seen, and it had its own coded keypad, separate from the rest of the estate's smart system. That entrance led directly to what he called the guest ramp, a smooth, dimly lit incline that opened into a hidden corridor with mirrored walls. No cameras, no noise, just footsteps. The guests who used that path never interacted with the general party, never appeared on security footage from the main floor. And when they left, they didn't go out the front. It was a world beneath the world, a party beneath the party. Why? Because, according to insiders, the real party didn't happen upstairs. An ex-event planner who worked two major events at Diddy's properties in 2017 and 2019 says she was told to prepare catering for the upstairs group and the inner group. When she asked what that meant, she was told flatly, "You don't ask, you just prep." She also confirmed that several celebrity guests were escorted directly to the lower levels upon arrival and were never seen again for the duration of the night. What were they doing down there? Here's where the story fractures into speculation. Some claim those tunnels were nothing more than extreme luxury, a billionaire's eccentric version of privacy. But others believe they were designed for something more sinister: separation, secrecy, and silence. One theory that's taken hold among legal experts watching the case is that the tunnel system wasn't just functional. It was protective. Not for the guests, for Diddy. By funneling high-profile individuals through an underground system, there's no paparazzi, no witnesses, no accidental cell phone footage, no accountability. It's a page ripped straight from the Epstein playbook. And then there's the question of the guest list itself. After Diddy's arrest, fans started noticing something odd. Celebrities began scrubbing their social media, removing photos from past parties, unfollowing, distancing. LeBron James, Kevin Hart, Steph Curry. Even Kim Kardashian and Young Miami, both once close to Diddy, have gone eerily silent. Was it damage control or fear? Some reports suggest that federal investigators uncovered internal guest logs during the raid, files encrypted but labeled with initials and dates. If true, those logs could become key evidence in the expanding RICO investigation. And if those initials match any known names, the fallout could be catastrophic. Because the moment a single A-list star is implicated, the tunnel story becomes something else entirely. Not just a tale of underground passageways, but of an entire system designed to enable and protect. And yet, no one's talking. Not publicly, but in the shadows, behind sealed court filings and redacted affidavits, the silence is starting to break. When the agents finished mapping the tunnel system, they thought they had seen the worst of it. But the real terror wasn't in the architecture, it was in the technology. Because what they found next revealed a deeper obsession, one not just with secrecy, but with surveillance. Inside the Miami tunnel vault, investigators discovered a wall of screens, some still flickering with live feeds from across the property. Behind hidden panels, they found hard drives. Dozens of them, each marked only with a number. No labels, no descriptions, no names. But when they cracked them open, what they saw changed everything. 12 terabytes of footage. Hidden cameras installed across multiple homes, not just in public rooms, but in bathrooms, bedrooms, guest quarters, even inside the underground chambers. According to internal memos later leaked by a whistleblower, much of the footage showed private moments, some of them consensual, many of them not, and all of it, it seems, was being recorded without the knowledge of the people involved. One agent described the system as worse than a club security network. Because this wasn't just motion detection, it was audio capture, facial recognition, real-time tracking across rooms labeled with guest initials. And according to one tech consultant brought in to help decrypt the drives, there were folders titled Hold and Emergency. A chilling suggestion that this footage wasn't just collected. It was curated and possibly weaponized. It didn't take long for speculation to swirl. Was this footage being used for blackmail? To control people? Or worse, to cover up crimes? One former member of Diddy's inner circle, who spoke under a sealed deposition, claimed that the surveillance system was always on. That even when no parties were happening, cameras ran 24/7. And that specific guests, especially young artists, influencers, and lesser-known attendees, were often invited back, alone, and always led underground. There's more. One room, according to federal documents, had a unique setup. A chair bolted to the floor, facing a mirror, flanked by 2 high-frequency speakers. The files attached to that room's feed were labeled Session 3, Session 4, and Final. What was happening in that room? No one's confirmed, but former staff members described hearing strange noises from the floor below. Loud bass tones, screams, and once, what sounded like chanting. That same room, wired with more sensors than any other area in the estate. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. One of the servers hidden inside the tunnel was encrypted with a rotating 12-character passcode. After 3 failed login attempts, the entire drive wiped itself clean. Gone. No way to recover. Meaning, someone planned for the possibility of a raid. Someone expected to be caught. And someone built in a kill switch to make sure the worst secrets never saw the light of day. The deeper investigators go, the more they realize this wasn't a home. It was a machine, a system built to record, monitor, and control. Not just the property, but the people inside it. You don't build surveillance like this for fun. You build it to survive. And now, as agents try to reconstruct what happened in those tunnels, one thing is clear. Whatever was going on beneath Diddy's empire, he was watching. Every second, every face, every scream. And if even a fraction of that footage still exists, it could be the most damning evidence ever recovered from a celebrity's home. Some say the tunnels weren't just about hiding. They were about transforming. Because according to multiple witnesses, what happened underground didn't feel like a party. It felt like a ritual. It started with the whispers, former assistants, disgruntled producers, even a few anonymous celebrities, describing strange rules, coded invitations, and nights that followed lunar calendars, not party schedules. Events that took place only on full moons. Rooms that had no lights, no music, no sound, until a signal was given. One artist, who asked not to be named, recalled being invited to a private gathering at Diddy's Star Island mansion. They were told to dress in all white, hand over their phone, and remain open to new experiences. That night, they were led underground, not into a club, into what looked like a chapel. Candles, ritual symbols etched into the floor. And something even more chilling, a circle of people, completely silent, holding hands around a seated guest in the center. They weren't praying. They weren't chanting. They were watching. This wasn't an isolated report. One former engineer hired to install lighting at Diddy's LA home claimed he was asked to calibrate frequencies for a private healing room. When he arrived, he said the space already had high-frequency emitters installed, along with rotating strobe lights and soundproof panels. He left the job early, never returned, and said what he witnessed felt more like psychological experimentation than home entertainment. Another former employee spoke of a frequency protocol document, printed and laminated, outlining emotional manipulation tactics using sound, color, and environment. The goal, it claimed, was to lower resistance and increase openness. Open to what? It didn't say. And then there were the energy parties. That's what some guests called them. Exclusive gatherings where guests were allegedly offered drinks laced with MDMA, instructed to change into robes, and guided into a circular chamber with soft lighting, mirrored walls, and slow, hypnotic music. Some remember bits and pieces. Others remember nothing at all. One woman claimed she woke up in a room with no idea how she got there, surrounded by strangers who told her, "You're safe, it's just the process." She left before sunrise. She never came back. And when she tried to speak up about it later, her social media accounts were mysteriously locked down, and a private investigator showed up at her workplace within a week. What exactly was the process? And was it spiritual or strategic? Some experts have started connecting the dots. The soundproof chambers, the strobe patterns, the substances, even the temperature settings. They argue this wasn't some eccentric celebrity retreat. It was psychological conditioning. And if that's true, then the tunnels weren't just for transportation. They were for transformation. And for those who went in, willingly or otherwise, the experience was designed to break something, to remold it, and maybe to own it. This isn't just about freak-offs. This is about control, about systems built to strip autonomy and rebuild loyalty. And if those reports are true, if even one of those rituals was real, then we're not just looking at underground tunnels. We're looking at a belief system, a cult of control, And someone was pulling the strings. The final tunnel was different. No lights, no cameras, no luxury. Just a narrow shaft, 4 feet wide, 8 feet tall, buried beneath the garage of Diddy's Los Angeles mansion. It ran for nearly 90 feet. And then it stopped, abruptly, bricked off with fresh cement. No signage, no records, no explanation. Inside, agents found what one source described as a discarded scene. A stained mattress, an overturned wooden chair, an empty bottle of tequila, camera mounts on the wall, bare but clearly used, a single red bulb in the ceiling shattered. No surveillance footage was recovered from this tunnel. No files, no logs. But the eerie stillness of that space, the silence, the isolation, the unfinished feeling, it shook even the most seasoned investigators. Was it an escape tunnel? A panic hideaway? Or a purge room, used, then sealed off once its purpose was fulfilled? One investigator described it as the chamber that wasn't supposed to be found. And the fact that it had been just barely before trial proceedings began suggested something even more unsettling. Someone knew, and someone ran out of time. As prosecutors built their RICO case, they began quietly subpoenaing architects, contractors, and tech consultants linked to Diddy's properties over the past 15 years. Many refused to speak. Others cited NDAs so extensive they were afraid to even admit they'd worked on his homes. One civil engineer, who ultimately cooperated under threat of contempt, allegedly admitted to building custom substructures under one of the Miami properties in 2015. He was never told what the space was for, only that it had to be silent, pressure-sealed, and able to evacuate in under 90 seconds. Evacuate what? He said he never asked. The implication was clear. These tunnels weren't just about hiding things from the public. They were built to disappear at a moment's notice. But as more information comes out, a deeper truth begins to emerge. This wasn't just a single man's paranoia. This was a system, a fortress built out of wealth, power, and fear. Former staff described being rotated out every few months, never allowed to settle in. Private security firms were swapped constantly, ensuring no one team ever knew too much for too long. Guests were vetted, phones locked, faces blurred by custom surveillance software that auto-scrubbed recordings after 24 hours. And now, after the raids, the arrests, the indictments, it all feels like a collapsing fortress. A kingdom buried beneath the very ground it ruled from. The silence from Hollywood? It's louder than ever. Not a single A-list celebrity has publicly addressed the tunnels. Not one statement, not one denial. Just ghosted timelines, deleted photos, and carefully scripted PR responses that say nothing. What were they all part of? And what did they all agree, silently, implicitly, not to say? Because that's the final twist in this story. It's not just about Diddy. It's about the system that let him build this empire unchecked. The people who attended, the ones who looked away, and the ones who stayed silent, even now. Maybe the truth lies in that bricked-off tunnel. Maybe it's already been buried for good. But one thing's certain. You don't build tunnels unless you've got something to hide. And Diddy's tunnels weren't just hiding things. They were hiding people, stories, and power. And now that the walls are cracking, what's buried beneath may finally come to the surface. Sean Diddy Combs has not been convicted of any crime related to this testimony. The investigation is ongoing, and all individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But Cassie Ventura's words, delivered under oath, have pulled back the curtain on something far more disturbing than fame or scandal. They've exposed a world hidden in plain sight, beneath mansions, beneath contracts, beneath silence. A world of tunnels, control, and secrets buried for years. Whether justice is served in court remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable. Cassie didn't just testify. She tore open a vault the world was never supposed to find. And now that it's open, what else might crawl out from the dark?